Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Wonderful. So it is such a pleasure to welcome you this morning to CSEdX 2025. It's a signature feature on the Charles Sturt University Learning and Teaching calendar, and the crew in the Teaching Academy, we've been working hard over the last couple of months to bring this program together and to create this opportunity for connection, shared reflection and learning. So it is so good to see all of you here in the room today joining us for our opening session. And it is such a timely conversation, isn't it? All about generative AI in learning and teaching. So on behalf of the team, welcome. It's wonderful to see you. It gives me great pleasure to host you this morning. For those who I haven't met, my name is Kushila Kumar. I'm the director of the Charles Sturt University Teaching Academy, and our primary focus is on making sure that learning is at the heart of our professional journeys. So this Learning and Teaching Conference is a special one for us because it's all about learning together. So we have a wonderful day organized for you, and this session in particular is an opportunity for us to really engage and think about what's happening within the generative AI landscape within Charles Sturt University. But before I kickstart the proceedings, I want to hand over to Uncle Lloyd Dolan, who's going to do a very special welcome to country. And Uncle Lloyd is a Wiradjuri elder and academic leads First Nations curriculum in the Division of Learning and Teaching. Uncle Lloyd is also an early adopter of Gen AI and has been using different AI tools to diversify learning material for student experience. So Uncle Lloyd, it's over to you for the welcome.
Anangul Kachila. So for me, Nado Gawambana Nino Gi Radri Yapangiyara, Yuan Nadi Lloyd Dolan, Kadang Narangare, Malian Guga, Gawambana Dun Yogin in an Gira, Nado Gobara Yinjapanijo, Moyalung, Murdable, Yalable, Kiarable, Nayani Gobara, Dalung, Gubanijo, Numban, Mangalangu, Injamara, Manangana, Nayani, Manangana Bunira, Banal, Nara Nara, Manabanayani, Ki Yara Main, Nado Gobara Mangawal Nina Nangira Yeroto. So everybody actually understood what I said, didn't they? No issues there. So just wanted to acknowledge that I'm Wiradjuri, part of the frillneck lizard people, part of Eagle and Wiradjuri Nation, coming to you from Wagga Wagga. Pay my respects to elders, past, present, and future, but also acknowledge all the different nations that are coming together as we recognise the depths of First Nations knowledges in the wisdom of respectfully knowing how to live well in a world worth living in. And hopefully we'll have a great day and consider, the world we leave for the future generations to come. Anangu.
Thank you, Uncle Lloyd, for that beautiful welcome. I really appreciate you sharing that with us this morning. I also want to acknowledge that I'm joining you from Biripi country here in beautiful Port Macquarie, and I pay my respects to Biripi elders past and present. And today is also Remembrance Day, so it's an opportunity for us also to pause and reflect on the enormous cost and toll that war and conflict has on Australians and people around the world. It's a time to acknowledge the loyalty, selflessness and courage of all those who serve and their service and sacrifice. So I was thinking about some of these characteristics and how they play out for us, I guess, in higher education at this point in time, where we are in a very complex space within AI in learning and teaching. So those are some of the reflections I've been having as we've been preparing for this event. But without much further ado, I want to welcome our next two speakers, Professor Janelle Wheat, Pro Vice Chancellor Chancellor Learning and Teaching. Janelle, it's great to have you here this morning and to hear from you about the AI ecosystem at Charles Sturt University and how we as staff can channel our inner learner in this space. So really looking forward to hearing you speak. We're also joined by Dr. Prue Laidlaw, who's the Academic Director, Education Strategy in the Division of Learning and Teaching. Now, Prue, you mentioned that you've been exploring AI as a threshold concept in higher education, and this idea is that once we understand what it is as a threshold concept, it fundamentally changes the way we look at our teaching, the way we think about our disciplines, and the way we think about ourselves and our practice. So I look forward to hearing your reflections on how we could use that lens to understand how we keep building our confidence and capability in this setting. So thank you very much in advance for bringing that lens to the table. A quick reminder as well before I hand over to Prue and Janelle, please have your microphones on mute while they're speaking, but use the Q&A area of Teams to put your questions. We'll have plenty of time for conversation at the end. So Janelle and Prue, over to you.
Thank you, Kashila. I'll kick off and then hand to Prue shortly. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining today. Prue and I would like to spend a few minutes chatting about where we're at with AI in learning and teaching at CSU at the request of Kashila and the organising team for CSEdX this year, and where we're headed as an institution. It's an exciting time, honestly, even though the speed of change seems a bit overwhelming sometimes. I'm sure you all feel that. So let's start with the TEXA document that came out recently. It's called Enacting Assessment Reform in a Time of Artificial Intelligence. What I really love about it, and I did actually say love about it, is that TEXA basically says that AI detection tools can't guarantee integrity, and that structural redesign is the only sustainable response. In other words, we can't just keep trying to catch students out. We actually need to think and rethink how we do assessment. So TEXA describes this as a compass to guide appropriate directions rather than a map of what may lie ahead, which is great because what they're saying is that here are 3 legitimate pathways that you can take as an institution. So they are program or course-wide reform, assessment reform, subject-level secure tasks, or a hybrid approach, so a bit of both. And so that's what TEXA has asked every institution across the country to do. The evidence-based bit here is really important. By selectively implementing that program or course-wide assessment principles in some areas while maintaining the subject level assurance in others, we can balance immediate integrity assurance with longer-term educational enhancement. So it's not about locking everything down, it's about being strategic. And this actually validates innovation because we're trusted to make informed choices that fit our context, and that is particularly important in a regional university like ours. Which brings me to where we're at as an institution. We've made a pretty significant shift recently. Our statement of the use of AI principles acknowledges that AI tools present both opportunities and challenges, and they will significantly impact the way we teach, research, learn, and work. The key message: students can use Gen AI for tasks unrelated to assessments, including planning, explaining topics, or creating tutorials. And when it comes to assessments, if it's explicitly permitted in the subject outline, they can use it there too. This is where the secure framework, designed and developed in collaboration with a lot of key people across the university by Mark Bassett, this is where that framework comes in, and it's getting real recognition across the sector. It's essentially 6 questions that help staff work out where AI use is appropriate. It provides practical guidance to minimise risk without being impeded by overly rigid decision processes, which sometimes we do have, that may hamper that innovation. And certainly, you know, in low risk cases, it allows you to make those decisions really quickly and easily. The questions cover things like, are you putting in security-related data? What are the ethical concerns? Is there any personal information being shared? Could this break university policy? It's a really practical tool that helps us say yes to innovation where it makes sense, while being responsible about the risks. So I think in terms of our approach to understanding risk with AI, we are actually leading the sector. Now the big strategic piece, the models of engagement and assessment, linked directly to our education strategy vision. We're developing new principles and guidelines for course level programmatic approaches to assessment and feedback, including new staged assessments, explicitly acknowledging the impact of artificial intelligence. So instead of treating each subject's assessment in isolation, programmatic approaches to assessment involves the longitudinal collection of various data points about students' learning across the entire curriculum, deliberately designed to optimise both robust decision-making and student learning. Traditionally, we actually mix different learning outcomes together in each subject. Students might pass despite gaps in particular areas. A programmatic approach to assessment tracks each learning outcome over time, giving us a clear view of whether students have actually achieved the required standards for each outcome. It's about setting the whole picture of a student's development across their degree. So starting in 2026, we're transitioning to include more supervised assessments as part of this approach. These are in-person assessments where the use of AI and other technologies is controlled by the assessor. So it isn't about going backwards, it's strategic. Supervised assessments let us directly verify student capability in authentic or controlled settings. And here's why this matters. If we have these validation points where we know students can demonstrate foundational capabilities independently, it actually frees us up to design other assessments that authentically integrate AI tools. We're preparing students for the real world while maintaining integrity of our qualifications. Look, what ties all this together is that we're taking an evidence-based principle approach that's flexible rather than rigid. We're not banning AI, we're not pretending it doesn't exist, but we're also not abandoning our responsibility to ensure our degrees mean something. We're building assessment systems that are both rigorous and innovative, and that's exactly what we should be doing as a university. So that's where we're at, and honestly, I'm excited to see how we all navigate this together. So I'm going to hand over to Prue now to run over some more specific elements of our AI ecosystem. Thanks.
Thank you, Janelle. I think you've set the institutional framing really nicely there, as well as the national framing, where this also all begins. So I guess following on from that institutional framing, I guess our first major step, as Janelle just mentioned, is the models of engagement and assessment roadmap. And this is part of our transition, is using supervised assessments throughout 2026. So you would have recently seen some information come out around supervised assessments, and this is really our runway. So the supervised assessments are our runway into the models of engagement and assessment, which will then take that course level approach. So with the supervised assessment, that's our 2026 focus. So this means ensuring that each course will include at least 2 supervised assessments for a student who's doing a full-time study load. So there'll be 2 subjects with supervised assessments if you're studying full-time. If you're a part-time student, you might be studying, 50% of a full-time load. You're likely going to come across 1 supervised assessment as you're studying each session. So our supervised assessments mean that we are, as Janelle mentioned, we're verifying student identity and capability under supervision, and this can be in person as well as online. I think what Janelle said is really important. It's not about surveillance or mistrust. It's really about assurance and authenticity. So creating those conditions where students can demonstrate what they've genuinely learned. The staged rollout, though, really does allow each discipline to choose the supervision method that best fits their context. And that's really important. We have a really diverse student body as well as diverse disciplines at this university. So there may well be exams. We may still have, and I really hope to see, essays and written reports, but we'll also have on-campus tasks. We'll have authentic performance assessments, and we also might have those sort of monitored online submissions as well. So part of the ecosystem approach, though, is making sure that we are enabling this to happen. So we will have some updated assessment policy and procedure information going through. This will be open for consultation, but this is really enabling the ecosystem for staff and students to work together to understand these new definitions of supervision. We'll also look at what this means at the course level. So we're working really hard at making sure we've got dashboards that allow us to see where our supervised assessments are during the student journey within a course, where are our gaps, where might we work together to fill some of those gaps. We're also looking at things like updating the subject outlines, so we've got more information for students, as well as updating their resources in subjects for students as well. We also know that the transition touches, I guess, teaching teams, most importantly, professional staff and systems. So support is layered that we're going through at the moment. It's also coordinated through DLT and the faculties as well. So we're working hard to have things like assessment design workshops. You've come here today to a really important CSEdX where you'll be taught by experts and also people at the coalface with what they're currently doing, what they're planning on doing. We also have updated guidance and exemplars. So at the moment, and I've popped the link in the chat, we've already got some great work on the supervised assessment web pages. We'll also be looking at technical pilots. So we'll be looking at things like, well, what might Respondus look like to help us lock down our browsers? What might Cogniti look like to help us build AI agents that are education focused for students? And we'll also have governance alignment throughout all of these processes as well. I think parallel to this, but equally important, is our AI literacy programs and the great work that the Teaching Academy has done here in ensuring that staff can engage with AI responsibly and critically. Janelle mentioned that we've got the secure framework, and I can see Jeff's wonderful post in the chat there just saying how great the secure framework is, but also how it's really a reflection of what we should be doing and asking ourselves the same questions. And completely agree, Jeff, when we're looking at curricular and assessment changes. So building on the AI literacy, we have Tier 1 training available now. So jump in and do your AI training. And we'll have Tier 2, which is the discipline-informed practice, which we'll be launching very soon as well. When we're talking about AI, it's really about trying to stay engaged ourselves and sort of build our own capabilities and confidence in this area so we can understand where AI can be used, but also where are those pockets where perhaps we don't want students using AI for really valid reasons. I said before as well, we're working with trialling some technology. So things like Cogniti will be coming. I feel like we've been hearing about Cogniti for a couple of years now, but we will be hopefully introducing Cogniti soon. But this will have a look at how we might pilot the use of this. So building education-focused AI agents that help students and staff with their teaching and learning. And it provides that trusted private AI space that's integrated with CSU systems, and we all love the word integrated. So it will support learning design, admin workflows, but also assessment feedback without a data risk. So there's some really good things that are happening there. Aside from the technology, though, we've already got great practice happening. So you'll see examples of that in the workshops today. But across the university, we're already seeing really inspiring examples of both AI integration into assessment, but also into teaching and learning practices. And we've heard some great stories from the midwifery team talking about how they are integrating AI into their teaching and learning. We've also heard from allied health and education, information technology, as well as some really great work that's also happening in some of our HLT subjects, so Indigenous perspectives on health and wellbeing. So really looking at how we can integrate AI where it's needed to be integrated, of course. So some really good examples of the critical thinking that's applied to AI and how it can be used in our subjects. And I think that's an important point to make because we also know with this supervised assessments, we also have non-supervised assessments and they play an equally important part in the assessment ecosystem we have at universities. So this might be where we're having that mix of students not using AI and students also engaging with AI as part of the assessment process. So I think what you'll see today are these fantastic examples of early adopters showing what responsible, creative engagement can look like and how it's not about replacing judgment, but expanding what's possible within learning and assessment at a university. So I think I've covered quite a lot here, but what I would say is that 2026 will be the foundation year. It's really about consolidating the trust, our capability and our systems readiness. This really is an ecosystem approach. The transition to supervised assessment and that rollout of what we're seeing around AI literacy and other elements are also part of the same trajectory, moving us into the models of engagement and assessment, but they're also building our confidence as individuals and as a university. They're building on our consistency as well. It's also about our authenticity, which aligns well with Tex's advice for us in how we teach and assess in a world where AI is now part of everyday academic life. So I feel like I've gone through a whirlwind of where we're going. And as Janelle also mentioned, it does feel quite busy at the moment, but it is all heading in the right direction on that runway towards models of engagement and assessment, and really taking that course level approach, which is also where the students sit. Students are at the very heart of our move to the models of engagement and assessment as well. So I might leave it there and really stop and open it and hand back to Janelle, or open it to the floor as well if you have questions for us or would like to explore any other elements with us.
Thank you, Prue and Janelle. I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to open this up and take some questions, reflections from the floor. There are no questions at the moment in the Q&A space, but I'm really happy to open this up and welcome your reflections as you're listening to kind of what's happening within that ecosystem when you're thinking about your own teaching and your students. What are some of the front of mind reflections that you have in this space, either as educators on the ground teaching students, or as support staff who really play a pivotal role in supporting learning and teaching? So while you gather your thoughts, I might put a question forward perhaps to Janelle. Janelle, so when we think about, I heard a lot about non-supervised assessment being a really important space in which we can experiment and be really creative and innovative in what we're going to do around assessment. What are your reflections on the dispositions that we need to take into our learning and teaching practices, do you think? What would be some of those critical dispositions that, as a learning and teaching community, that we might need to kind of lean into more?
Thanks, Kashila. I think there are a few things here. So obviously, non-supervised assessment, as Prue's mentioned, is really important in having a really solid understanding of a student as a whole person and their learning across multiple types of assessment strategies, using AI, obviously, or at least accepting AI might have been used in there. So there's the opportunity with this, the non-supervised assessment really is around Phil Dawson's, Swiss cheese model. So if you're not sure about that, have a look. But it's got to be a core tenet of our approach to, that course level assessment change that we're making, is that understanding our students and what they know is going to be really critical. So I think the kind of disposition, which is a fabulous question that I think we should all be taking into 2026 once we've had a break over Christmas and tried to regroup after a really busy year, would be that we need to be curious and a little bit brave, actually. A bit courageous. So there's an opportunity here to be more creative with the types of assessment, to actually quarantine time if that's possible, but certainly engage and play with AI and how it might be useful for your particular discipline and how you like to teach, and what are the critical literacies that your students need to be successful in industry once they graduate. So the disposition, in my opinion, would be that of being really curious and not being afraid to be a bit creative. It's a fantastic opportunity to be looking at assessment holistically. If we're going to redesign it, now's a massive opportunity to work with colleagues, try something that you've always wanted to try, or at least look at the strategies that you currently do use and how could they be enhanced with AI. So that's my thoughts, actually. They're my thoughts, Kashila.
Thank you, Janelle. Prue, did you have anything to add about the dispositions that you see as being vital for us to sort of lean into as we engage in this journey?
Absolutely. And I think they're probably dispositions that a lot of our academics already have in that real innovation space and creativity, but also as key subject matter experts in their discipline and also knowing their students. And I think they're things we do really well at Charles Sturt. So when we start to think about those non-supervised assessments, they really are about encouraging that sort of deep learning, that creativity, and also the application process. So the non-supervised assessments become us looking at the output. the artifact. Whereas when we look at the supervised assessments, they tend to look at, well, what is the process? That becomes the assessment where we can do the assessment of learning. The non-supervised assessments become the assessment for learning. So there's a different way we can be looking at this. Some of us are already doing it now, but as we move through to that sort of course level approach, we may also find that as we start to map, so that will be a bit of the process next year, we'll be mapping our assessments to the course learning outcomes, we may find that actually we're over-assessing in places, and we can actually remove some of our assessments and focus on the key assessments or the learning outcomes we really want the students to focus on. So I think there, as Janelle said, there's some real excitement here and some real, I guess, an ability to sort of cut through a lot of the sort of the noise we've been hearing and really focus on what does our discipline need, what do our students need, and how can we do this in a space? And I think we're really well supported to do that in 2026.
Thank you so much. I see that Jane's got a reflection, a couple of questions in there. Jane, do you want to come off mute and perhaps engage with Prue and Janelle and talk about your reflection this morning?
Happy to do that, Kashila, and what a great opening. Thank you, Kashila, Janelle, and Prue. And as you know, we use a fair bit of AI stuff in midwifery at the moment, and my question and reflection about that is using it myself often, learning, adjusting tools, and we had a great education session the other day with Janelle and the team. So it's about how we set those boundaries safely for ourselves as educators and for the students, and how do we change that paradigm of the past couple of years where we've absolutely penalised and been very punitive about the use of AI, to embrace it, using it respectfully and authentically and safely, I guess, and trying not to, and especially in midwifery, replace that clinical reasoning and reflection of their practice. And as the profession moves forward and using AI itself in diagnoses and various things in midwifery, that changing landscape of AI in healthcare as well. So just a couple of deep reflections to offer. Sorry.
Thanks, Jane. I think we did touch a little bit on this when we met with midwifery was it only last week? I think you've actually partly answered it in the team's comment that you made, in that I think we need to model best practice and just actually, as you say, with the nursing curriculum and how students learn from expert practitioners is a lot about learning as much as from what we do as from what we say. And so just preparing for this, I was reflecting on, what are the things that could help us be, really transparent, and what does modelling best practice look like as an educator. And so some of the things that we could consider include modelling that transparent, critical, purposeful AI use. And so from this, students learn that professional judgment skill, and by showing our reasoning processes allows our students then to develop their metacognitive skills, and acknowledging our uncertainties and mistakes. Hard to do as an academic. You feel like you have to know all of the answers, but if you do that, then our students will learn that iterative improvement skill. So I think there's a lot here that we're learning as we go. I think in terms of the speed with which you embrace AI is something that you can start to navigate yourself within your discipline teams with what feels comfortable, but also keeping in mind how fast the profession is moving as well. So there is plenty of support. I mean, Prue's just outlined that if you're actually concerned, then reach out to DLT and we can certainly come and help. Or we could come and have a chat to your disciplines as well around what's going on at the moment. You've got some really early adopters, Jane, in your school, and I think nursing's probably doing a lot of great work already, actually, in terms of understanding this. So.
Thank you so much, Jane, for that reflection, and Janelle for the response. I really love the point you make about that intellectual humility. We don't have all the answers. And I think you remind us of how important these kind of conversations are, where we kind of very candidly surface the complexities that we each face every day as we navigate this space. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't get it so right. And it's all a process, I guess, of leaning in, as you say, being a bit curious, being a bit courageous, understanding that we will get things wrong, but also having those really open conversations, whether it's with our colleagues, whether it's with our students, and really kind of taking them along on this journey. We're all on this journey together. And so, Jane, I imagine that your wonderful midwifery students would really appreciate that conversation that you might have with them about your own journey, your own reflections, like you've shared this morning with us. I would love to hear that. You know, how is Jane, my lecturer, you know, how is she navigating this space? You know, what's dear to her heart, and what are the complexities that she's grappling with in trying to kind of bring us along as well. So I really appreciate that, that very deep reflection. Rain, I did see your hand go up and then it quickly came down. I didn't know whether you had a question or a reflection to share.
Actually, it's not a question, but a brief introduction. This afternoon, we have workshops at 2 p.m. It's about practical AI for reusable interactive activities from Lachlan and Ryan. So everybody are welcome to join our session.
Thank you for the plug. Yes, we do have 6 wonderful workshops lined up in the program, 3 that are happening this morning in 10 minutes time, and then 3 more in the afternoon. And the one in the afternoon is the one that Rain is referring to. But yes, as Prue has said, you know, we have colleagues already in this space who are you know, engaging in AI, who are trialing a few things, who've experimented, who are sharing their learning. So please, if you haven't already signed up to this, do see whether you can and come along and join those fabulous presenters and facilitators, and you know, engage in that conversation. Lachlan, a comment or a reflection?
Yeah, just drawing your attention to comment from Lloyd in the Q&A. He's got a question for you. Thank
you, Lloyd. Let's jump in there. Thank you so much, Lachlan. It's just coming up. Lloyd, do you want to come off mute? I see there's a couple of points in there. Can I go to Lisa Brown first? Lisa, would you like to come off mute and put this question forward?
Sure. So I was just like, I love the idea of AI and leaning in and really developing up our skills and assessments that are authentic and that are representative and realistic. But I also think that takes a lot of extra work, and I don't feel skilled to be able to do that at this point. And I know that it's something that we're going to need to do, but in our already kind of tight and cramped workloads, I'm just curious, from a university perspective and level, has there been discussions or thought about, you know, allocating extra time for PD or extra time, extra support? Like, I know that you've sort of said reach out to DLT, but I don't always know what I'm reaching out to DLT for. I feel like I can't just say help. Like, what
well,
do
you
I
can.
do?
It would still work.
Yeah, so I guess from a university level, like, it seems like we're being told to do these things and lean into these things, and maybe I'm just tired and exhausted at the end of the year, but it just feels hard. So what support are you going to be providing to help us make the journey doable?
Prue, you've got your hand up. Does that mean that you're asking a question?
Oh, no, I can ask a question. Oh, Lisa, I thought I'd jump in and sort of answer Lisa's question, because it's such a fair question to ask. And I'd probably say it's also one we've been anticipating and we've been asked quite a bit. So what I would probably say, Lisa, is that when we're talking about sort of the assessment changes, we're talking at the university level. And I guess then when we think about those different levels within the university, and the diversity of our courses is going to be different for everyone. So what I'd probably say first is I'd really encourage everyone to first look critically at your current assessments, and also have a look at the supervised assessment web pages we've got on DLT, because I think this can then help you to reflect on what this means for your course. So again, we're looking at the course level. So working with your course team, your course director, who also has access to the dashboard that looks at where the gaps might be in your course. Because it may mean, Lisa, that at this point in time, you don't actually need to make changes. And there will be some people that don't need to make changes in their subjects. And there will be some that would like to make changes. And absolutely, we're here to support that. So I think because of the variability in the changes across the disciplines, courses and subjects, we're really hoping to help you to unpack that, but also that this will be very different for everyone. So I'd really encourage everyone here to work collaboratively within your course team, chatting to your colleagues, your course director, your associate head learning and teaching, your sub-dean learning and teaching, and your ADAs as well are fantastic to talk to. They have access to all of the information as well around what could this mean at the course level for your subject, where are the gaps? And I think that's where we can have that coordinated approach to the adjustments we want to make in our subject. So we'll support this through that very staged rollout I've been talking about, and that really targeted professional development along the way of workshops, exemplars, but also, as Janelle was saying, the one-to-one design support, which is really important as well. So please ask for it any time, Lisa. The goal here isn't to add work, but it is to be really focused collectively and focus our collective effort where it matters the most about maintaining that authentic, credible and the well-supported assessment. So I think what I'm trying to say is don't get too concerned right at this very minute, but do take that time to reflect on what your current assessment process looks like for your subject and your course. Have a look at the fantastic advice on our supervised assessment web pages and have a think about at the course level, what might this mean for you? It may not, hopefully, it may not mean much, Lisa. It may mean some tweaks perhaps or nothing at all. If it does require changes, absolutely reach out to DLT. Everyone here is absolutely ready and waiting, and we can help you unpack what that change might be if you're not too sure.
Thank you so much, Prue.
Cool,
I think a great reminder again that part of this work is about that distribution and coordination of our efforts. You know, as Lisa has said, we're very busy in our subjects, but this is also about uplifting and coordinating that across at a course level. And I think there will be some short-term pain. You know, change comes with that. But really, longer term, I think this will be a really great way to invest in the right things at the right times in the right places. I'm very conscious of time. We have some amazing workshops that are going to be starting in 3 minutes' time. So I would like to bring this conversation and round it off and say thank you, because I do want people to be able to get into the workshops and get settled in there and to engage in some of that professional learning that we talked about at the start of this session. So all I want to say to colleagues at the moment is to wish you well in your learning journey today. I hope you have an amazing, productive experience, lots of reflections, conversations, and learning. Thank you very much to Uncle Lloyd, Janelle, and Prue for being with us this morning and kickstarting CSEdX 2025. It's wonderful to have your company this morning. Thank you so much for being here. And we are now going to move into our workshop sessions. And then for those who are not engaging in the workshops, but hopefully we will see you at 11:15 for our fabulous keynote panel. So there's some amazing events coming up. So wishing you well for the rest of the day and see you soon. Thank you, everybody.